All right, with the time being 6 o'clock and a quorum being present, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're here for to select a architect for our FEMA request.
It should be a relatively short meeting, but I did receive 5 different statements of qualifications on different architectural firms. One I think we've worked with in the past, and I'll share that information when we get to it. Each of you have before you, not the long sheet, but the other sheet, the request for qualifications that was posted in, I believe, the Springfield paper as well as West Plains Daily Quill. And so these were the parameters that all the architectural firms were given as far as issuing their statement of qualifications, and you can see A through E, F. So I went ahead and took their statement of qualifications and put it on this long sheet and broke it down for each one so you kind of know kind of where we are. I do have a recommendation on kind of which one, but I also did some calling around and checked on references and so forth. The 5 that we have are Ball Architects. And Ball Architects, they are out of Springfield. We have Delatraxel Architecture, and I got to tell you, I'm not familiar with really any of these folks. Delatraxel is out of Poplar Bluff. Integrity Engineering Incorporated, and that's not to be confused with Integrity that we're working with on the other side, but this is an architectural firm out of Rolla. We have Paragon Architecture, and they are also out of Springfield. And then at the very end, we have SAP Design Architects, and they are also out of Springfield. And so as we kind of go down, I mean, when you look at several of them, there's a couple of them that I kind of eliminated pretty much off the top. Integrity Engineering has, as I read through their information, and I've got all their stuff here if you guys want to read them, I'll just pass them around. I don't have one copy for everybody because they just sent just a few. There's Ball, and there's another one for Ball, there's another one for Paragon. So if you want to thumb through those, there's Delatraxel as well. And so, and you kind of see some of the things that I'm talking about. But Ball Architects, well, let's go back to Integrity. Integrity's out of Rolla. They haven't done a lot of work in this area. And within their proposal, they didn't lift any FEMA safe rooms as far as projects that they had been done in the past or had completed. And then they primarily focus on commercial and industrial, hospitality, food service, churches, and other government entities, but they've done very little work with public school districts as far as I can tell when I reviewed their information. Again, no FEMA safe rooms were listed. I think based on that, and since they haven't done a lot of work down here, that would be one that I would probably, they did some projects, non-school projects in Licking and Summersville. But other than that, that's probably one that I wouldn't put at the top of the list at all. So the other ones that I checked into, we have Delatraxel, which is this group here, and they are out of Poplar Bluff.
Who is?
Delatraxel. Okay, that's the second one from the left. They have done some FEMA work. They did Three Rivers College. They did Poplar Bluff FEMA shelter for Poplar Bluff School District. Same thing for Greenville, Scott City. They did FEMA shelter for Advanced, Malden, and Donovan. They did provide a statement that they could fulfill the time requirements. They did provide cost control estimates on 17 completed projects, and they completed 7 of those projects at or below the bid, which means there were 10 of them that they didn't. Right? So that's kind of a...
We're used to that.
Well, yeah, kind of a concern there. So, and they have completed projects at Eminence, Summersville, and Thayer. And so they have done some work in this area. They are quite a ways away compared to, I don't know, between Poplar Bluff and Springfield. How is that as far as distance? About the same? How far is Poplar Bluff from here?
100 miles.
So it's about 6
It's
miles.
roughly the same, but
That's the
just
same distance,
Yeah.
okay.
not a very good drive.
So,
Well, it's all 4-lane now.
yeah.
Much better than it used to be.
When I reached out, and
Still not
I
very straight.
emailed all the SCA superintendents just to see who they've done work with in the past, and none of them mentioned Delatraxel, and none of them mentioned Integrity either. You know, and so those are 2 that they're kind of, I think, on the outer edge, and so, you know, I'm not sure they're one of my stronger applicants. The next one is Ball Architects. Ball Architects is the one, I think, Tony, that you have, and Shane, the one you just picked up. They've done some FEMA work. They've done a number of school districts. They did Koshkonong High School in 2014, Marionville Boag Building. They did a FEMA shelter at Crane. They did a gym addition at Galena. Same thing at Hurley. They had a K-8, the Hickory Hills K-8. They did do the Mountain View Birch Tree Middle School back in 2010. And
Is that when they fell in a sinkhole?
No,
No.
their FEMA building, isn't it?
What?
That's the one they built in 2010, their FEMA?
Well,
The middle school gym?
yeah, it says middle school on there in the proposal. And yeah, I think they were responsible for building the middle school, and that was the entirely new school, was it not? So they did that. They did FEMA shelters in Rogersville, Hollister, Marshfield, and Crane. They did have a project design schedule included in their proposal, including qualifications as well as phasing as well. Again, located in Springfield. They did have references. All of these had E-Verify documentation as well. So of the list, they'd probably be number 3 as far as my recommendation. The 2 that it really centered on, and a lot of that was based on references that I checked and feedback that I received from some of the SCA superintendents on ones that they have used. And I had one that was really pleased with Paragon, or I had 2 that were really pleased with Paragon and one not so much. SAP, everyone that did SAP was interested in them and liked what they did. I thought that between SAP and Paragon, those were probably the top 2 architectural firms. You may be familiar with SAP because they are the ones who did the Willow Springs FEMA shelter back in 2008, I think it was. So I don't know, those of you who were on the board at the time, do you recall working with them? At all?
Nobody here on the board at that time.
At that time?
Yeah.
I think it was 2008, I'm pretty sure when I look back on that, so. But they do have history with our school district, they do have history in our area. They've done work in Sarcoxy, Waynesville, Houston, Hollister, Ava, Reed Springs, Willow Springs, just to name a few. They have 47 safe room projects that they've completed and for Missouri school districts in this area. So they have quite the experience in doing safe rooms. I think of all the applicants, they have the greatest amount of experience on safe rooms. They also have several former educators, administrators who's on their staff. And so, I think they kind of bring that educational purpose into it, educational vision into it as well. And then they provide a 5-year track record of their projected budgets and construction costs, and overall over the 5 years, they finished under budget 4.43%. And so that also, I think, was a very good history, very good track record for them. And again, they're located in Springfield. Paragon has a strong history as well. They had 28 different FEMA safe room sites. They had projects in Cashville, Webb City, Diamond, Seneca, Junction Hill, Bakersfield, Crane, Willard. They said that they could move forward with the project within any time frame. They kind of laid out their schematic design, their design development, their construction documents, all that was pretty thorough. And so they have completed a project in Bakersfield and Junction Hill in this area. So I think they would be fine as well. But of all of those that I did reference checks on, the one that came back positive on all of them was SAP Design. So.
Wish we knew more about them. I know, like I said, I know we used them at the FEMA, but
Right.
wish I knew why we didn't use them after that.
I don't know.
That's the only thing that raises a question to me. After that, we switched to Dake Wells.
Right.
So I wish I had time to do a little bit more homework on that to figure
Yeah,
out
the
why
bad
we
thing
got away
about-
from SAP.
The bad thing about these, I received 3 of these, the deadline was 3 o'clock today. So I had like a few hours a day to kind of pull this information together. And so I didn't have a lot of time. Time is kind of the essence, that's why we had to do it, because we had like 2 weeks to post it. The deadline for the application is December 20th, I think. So we just don't have a lot of time. And so that's why it was such a short turnaround from the time we received these until we're asking for the board to make a decision. So,
Willow was an 06.
06,
It's
it's
in
been
the book.
13 years, yeah, I don't know, I thought it was 08. It was 13 years ago then, since the last time we did it, so. But my recommendation would either be SAP or Paragon. I think either one of those 2 would do a nice job for us. And again, the way they do this is they will help with the design process of the FEMA safe room. And then if there's anything that we want to add to that, whether we want to expand it to include gymnasium space or weight room, whatever, then that would be over and above. We'd have to pay that cost. But if it's just the FEMA safe room, then that would come out only if we're approved for the grant and the board that chooses to accept it. So then that's how that would work, so. Questions?
I like SAP.
Do you?
I'm with you. It's either Paragon or SAP. I'm a little nervous that SAP didn't show back up, but I think Dake Wells may have courted hard, and that may have been what happened, because I think that's their strategy. SAP's got more experience and came in 4.5% under budget. Kind of got me right there.
Over 5 years. Well, the project's over 5 years. So.
I just, like I said, I wish I had time, just wish I had
No, you go ahead.
just a little bit of time to ask a couple questions. Not that anybody here is gonna
Can
know
answer
it,
them.
that can answer.
In other words, to like go back and research kind of what happened.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess right now and make a quick phone call.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Do we need a motion for a recess or not?
I don't think so.
I don't need it.
Do
I'm just
we-
gonna call it way back.
Should we shut the meeting off?
It's up to you.
I would leave it going, because,
We'll make sure we're still in open session.
Right.
Okay.
Another book down there for SAP somewhere.
Which one? I think they just sent one.
sorry.
Just for a second.
Oh, Larry is sick.
I saw Debbie last night, and she said, he's still sick.
Yeah, it was Larry Simon.
And I
Saw him
said,
today.
you guys need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, he went to the doctor. Yeah. Got some medicine, I don't know what.
Yeah.
I'm sure they probably gave him.
Have you decided yet where I need to ring the bell? Monday,
yeah.
Monday night and Tuesday at noon.
Yeah, I have you on the schedule, but I'll have to text it to you where you're at. Because I can't remember top of my head. They make some pretty books, don't they?
They do. They make some real pretty books.
Yeah.
Have any ballpark idea for a building that we're talking about?
I
We're
looked
talking
at-
1.3 to 1.5.
Well, I think just the FEMA shelter itself is probably around $1 million range. And then if we add to it, I think it's gonna be more than that. And it's just a ball, it just depends on the size of it.
The only reason I asked that question is if you compare these two, it sounds great to say they're 4.43% under on overall, but if they're in the 1 to 5 million, they're only 2.28%. I mean, so you have to put that in context. It's a lot easier to have your percentages on a $10 million project than on a $5 million project.
Greater potential savings.
And Paragon really was similar.
Yeah, they had their cost savings in there as well.
Fun, that was all, yeah.
I was wondering about that, do they build in some
Some pads make
pad
it
there to
road.
make it look good down the road?
Every
I
contractor
think
I
they
ever
do.
deal with puts a pad in their bid. That makes sure that they don't look bad at the end of the bid. They may come in under, which makes them look like heroes,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah,
Is everybody ready to go back into?
yeah.
All right, I'll call the meeting back to order. Yeah, I know it doesn't sound like there was any bad, no issues with SAP when we used them before. So didn't move on to bad terms, I suppose. So, if that's the one you feel comfortable with, Bill, is that the one you would
That would be my,
recommend?
that would be my recommendation.
Okay. And, yeah, it looks like they've done plenty of safe rooms, they should know what's going on there, know the context. So, anybody have any other questions or comments, concerns about that?
No, but not more like a statement, I guess. But they are going to, help us think of ideas. If we built a safe room and we're,
Let's get a motion on the floor before we
Oh, yeah,
go
okay.
farther with that. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve a architect?
I'll make that motion.
Which architect would you like to approve?
SAP design.
Okay. Would anybody like to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion, comments?
They are going to probably give us like some ideas to go in our safe room.
Sure. now-
Meaning, I know we've kind of thrown around words like gym or other, something else, but since they've done, 47, they might have some neat ideas to go put in those safe rooms, safe buildings.
In addition to just a regular FEMA safe room.
Correct.
Correct, yeah. Because the regular FEMA safe room doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles to it.
Okay.
There's just not much, 4 walls, and I don't even think that's even anything else. I think it's a concrete floor and everything else. But
Okay.
if we tell them that we're interested in moving in a certain direction, they will work with us on trying to design it around that.
I would bet that most of those probably have had something additional added to it.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
think I've been in one yet that has not been, had additional stuff in it yet. Yeah.
What's the deadline for making this happen?
Well, December 20th is the application date. We have to have the application submitted to SEMA, and then to FEMA by then. They'll make a decision, I'm guessing, somewhere around about March, April, something like that. At which point then, if we are selected, then it would have to come back to the board, and the board would have to agree to accept it.
So between now and when the application is due, we have to have some numbers back from these folks.
Correct.
And does that have to include the extras?
Well, the FEMA itself, they're only going to fund what the grant's for.
Right.
So we may tell them we're going to put that in there, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't have to be in.
No, actually, no. But the architect needs to know because
Mhm.
they need to do their design for the FEMA room around that. So we're gonna have to tell them ahead of time if we're looking at a gymnasium space or a weight room, something like that. They need to know that ahead of time so they can build that into their plans. But they'll have to separate that out from the FEMA versus the extras.
At what point do we need to make that determination on what we want in there?
Pretty quick. I mean, if we approve it tonight, we've got Thanksgiving break next week, probably not gonna be a whole lot happening then. So at some point, we probably need to talk about what we wanna do with that space as a board, so.
At the December meeting, can it be done then? Give us,
Or
or
yeah,
that
see, that would be
close?
December, 9th? I think it might still be early enough. Yeah, but if they're gonna start working on the plans right now from an architectural standpoint, that didn't give them a lot of time.
No.
Right, okay.
So we probably need to know something pretty quick.
Let's, I'm gonna call for a vote on this right now, and then we can discuss that farther. All in favor, aye?
I
And opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Okay. Do you want to have a discussion now on what we think we need to put in there?
Sure.
I mean, I
If you wanna give me some direction, so I know which way to go with it.
I know Coach Colley, I've talked to him, he really supports the idea of a gym. I believe I do too, because that is a need that this district has at this time, I believe, is some additional gym space for, a bit large enough we can host some of the games in there, with some sort of a roll-away bleachers, similar to something. I've been to Mountain Views, have you guys been to Mountain Views, that's where they have their middle school games at? I'm all in favor of that, and if we can incorporate a weight room in it somewhere, whether it's at one end, or if they can put a loft. I've seen some that have got a loft on one end. I'm not, therefore, that would be my wish, would be to do something like that. Let them design how we can put it in there. Mac?
I know we're hurting for space for PE classes. I know there's at least 1 or 2 periods where there's actually 3 classes in the old gym. 2 middle school and a weight training class or a conditioning class, I believe. And so just additional PE spaces needed.
Adrian?
I really can't think of anything. I mean, I have heard that we need a gym. I'm not sure I, believe it, but I've heard it, so I'm gonna say pass for right now, because I haven't had time to think of anything other than like a performing arts center.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to start there, right?
Correct.
We can go down there and, perform.
Grimes Auditorium.
Or in Grimes, that's right.
Dean?
I think we undoubtedly have a need for gym space. I think we need to put some thought into how we're gonna utilize the old gym if we're gonna have a new gym because it's still a viable space, so we don't, maybe that's our weight room. I'm just saying, before we decide what's going into the new place, we need to decide how we're gonna use the assets we have in place.
Earl?
I'm all for the gym space, weight room.
Okay. Shane?
I agree, we can use the gym space, we're short, we don't have enough room for the kids to practice. The weight room is in a horrible location as it is, and I agree with what you said, the old gym needs to be reevaluated for how do we utilize that space. My only cautionary statement on this would be, if we're looking at this from a budgetary standpoint, we just made a 5-1 vote on probably a $1.5 to $2 million project on a whopping 9 minutes worth of review of this data. That's why I'm a nay vote. I don't think we've had enough time, and I know we have a tight timetable, that's the problem with this. But I don't make $2 million decisions in 9 minutes.
I'm sorry, we haven't made any decisions. All we've done is choose an architect that's gonna bring us a plan.
I agree.
And we'll have
I-
2
I-
months before you even have to, and we really don't even have to say yes until March, so we've got 6 months.
Did you read all these? No.
No, I haven't.
So that's why I voted nay. I disagree with maybe, you're choosing the person that you're gonna take and put your proposal out there with by 9 or 10 minutes worth of discussion on this. I think we've made a hasty decision. I think that we would have been better served to take a 3 or 4 day, over the weekend, everyone get a copy of a book and at least read them cover to cover and know what we're talking about here. Because frankly, I mean, I don't disagree that SAP seems credentialed, but there's not enough time to decide the rest of this. I think we need to be careful. We're arguing about a $175,000 lighting project that will pay for itself, and in this room, we've just decided that, well, we can use gym, we can use weight room, all these things we want to look at. Are we evaluating our expenditure carefully? Are we thinking that completely through? The no-brainer was approve the light project, move on, get on with that thing, get it moving. That would provide funds to help do some of the things we're wanting. I think we look at this from the most simplistic standpoint. What do we need? A shelter for our children and a space that could be used like the shelter we have as a gymnasium currently, and spend a small amount of capital to make it a usable space. And then, but build it in such a way that it can be future thinking. That's my problem. So that's my 2 cents.
Which way to work now?
I think the majority of them here is the
Yeah.
gym space and the weight room.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hearing, is that.
And I would not rule out if SAP comes in and says, hey, what about, if they just have
If they have another idea or
a
something.
great idea of what we should look at, don't rule anything out at that point.
Well, probably what I will do is have, obviously I have Robert James, I think, on a committee to work with them. I may even have a board member or two sit down and have the conversations as well, to give them some direction on what we're trying to accomplish here. And whenever we sit down and meet with them, but I'll make sure we do that as well.
Good.
Okay.
I'd like, administrators need to be involved as far as the principals.
Right.
As far as.
Yeah, I mentioned Robert because
what needs
that
a-
gym
yeah.
would be primarily his deal,
But
but
what
Marty could
needs
as well.
AC as far as, like scheduling right now and
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for open session tonight? I receive a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Shane, a second.
Second.
Earl? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you all.
All right, very good. Thank you all.
Mind if I take your pen, please? So we're out.